Welcome to Scrapbooking Made Simple. Today we are going to make a reflection layout using distress oxides, a small brayer, stamps and a black dye ink. So to get started you will need a piece of plain cardstock to do your base layout and then a piece of white cardstock. We're going to cut to 5.5 inches by 11.5 inches, and on that is what we're going to create our reflection on. So cutting at 5.5 inches by 11.5 inches. And we're going to put our plain cardstock to the side, just making sure that that fits on where we want it to go. And we will be able to start inking up. So you'll need to choose your 3 distress oxide colours that you would like to use. I ended up using Blueprint Sketch, Salty Ocean and Tumbled Glass. So you'll need a scrap bit of paper on the side as well to be able to roll off your ink from your brayer. So inking up your brayer, just the edge of the brayer. So you're not going to ink up the whole brayer, just the edge. Rolling that on, rolling one layer off onto your scrap paper and then starting from the edge, working your way in until all the colour has come off the brayer. And you're going to keep working on that all the way around the cardstock and then moving on to the next colour and then the darkest colour to finish. So keep working your way around that using the brayer to blend the colours together, and I'll come back to you soon. Once you have finished inking up your cardstock, we are going to do some stamping and creating the reflection. So choose the stamps that you want to use for this. Smaller stamps work a bit better as you're trying it out. I've got the Lavinia stamps Small Dwellings here, and end up adding the dragon on after I finish the video, I think. So to get the first reflection, I'm going to add some ink to the first stamp, and because this is not symmetrical, to get that image, I'm going to roll it onto the brayer. So because my Elements graphite ink from Lavinia Stamps is very inky, it's brand new, it takes me a little while to pick up the image that I want to on brayer. So I've just rolled those off onto my scrap bit of paper and rolling the brayer across the stamp, getting it to roll rather than to just push the ink across, and you can see that image on the brayer. So to create your reflection, just going to roll that image off the brayer onto the cardstock. Now, being so inky, I probably should have rolled it off gently on the scrap bit of paper first before adding it on, because you can see that it is quite dark for a reflection, but it's only the third time that I did this technique, so still learning a bit. But then just inking up the stamp again and stamping on, trying to line up that image and have the base touching as much as possible. Now when you have a stamp that is symmetrical, you are able to ink it up, stamp it on your project, and then stamp again. So the second generation stamp creates the reflection image underneath. Try to get it as straight as possible. You can see I was working on funny angles, so my reflections are a little angled, but it still just adds to the fun of the end project. So the stamping on, and then the second generation stamp becomes your reflection. The next thing that we will do to really highlight that this is a reflection is to use the brayer again. Now we're going to use the very edge of the brayer to create a line across the middle of the stamped images and the reflection. Now, if you don't feel comfortable doing it this way, you can just use a gel pen and a ruler, just right on the very edge of the brayer, rolling it across, getting it as straight as you can, but it is okay if it's not perfectly straight. And then running off the edges onto the bottom, and that creates a rippled effect in the water that we've created to really show up the reflections. So to help the small dwellings stand out, I decided to add a moon in the background. So just using an acetate mask, placing it over the dwellings that I wanted it to be behind, and using a blending brush, and I ended up using the tumbled glass because I didn't want it to be too dark, just wanted it to be in the background. So just inking up the brush and then starting from the center of the acetate mask and then blending out just to create that shadow effect, coming all the way around. Then you can see how well you are going with it, and if you're happy with it, by lifting it up slightly and working out if you need any more ink or in any more areas. Just add it to the bottom as well. So blending out from the middle. It helps to highlight the small dwellings. So there is our reflection. And this is where you can come in and add the little dragon stamp if you're using these stamps, or adding a bird stamp or a bee, whatever you've chosen to use and what stamps you have in your collection. It just helps finish it off. But once you have completed your reflection part on your cardstock, we can adhere that to our base layout cardstock. So when I did the reflections with the cards, I did one blue card and I did one with pinks and yellows, which looked beautiful. So any colours you can play with this technique and see how it comes out. So once you're happy with the position, we'll need to create our photo mats from what is left of the cardstock. So cutting the photo mats to 6 1/4 by 4 1/4, and we'll make 2, and then creating a title box which is 2 1/4 by 6 1/4 inches. So once all of those were cut, I decided that I wanted to add a reflection to the title box as well, just to see how that worked out. It didn't work out as well as I had hoped it would, but I still used it on my project, and I liked the sentiment that I chose from a stamp set in my collection. So just have fun working out how you want to make this work for you and finish off your layout. Keep practicing those reflections, and I look forward to seeing your final pieces. We hope you have enjoyed creating this reflection layout today. We look forward to seeing your finished projects. See you next time.